What's going on, everyone? James Lynch here. This is Early Look, the show where I take a look at an upcoming notable fight. And on today's edition, I'm going to be previewing the March 11th bantamweight main event between Petr Yan and Merab Dvalishvili. But before I give you my preview and pick, you know the drill. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. Those three things really do help out this channel big time. Okay, excited for this one. Two of my favorites in the division, Yan Dvalishvili. A lot at stake here. Really interesting style matchup here as well. This card is actually taking place at the theater at the Virgin Hotels in Las Vegas. So no clue how big this is. The cage is going to be. It might end up being a little bit smaller like the Apex, but interesting they went with a different venue here other than the Apex, which is good because at least there'll be a crowd in there as opposed to the Apex, which is awesome. This is going to be a 5-round fight like I mentioned. And quick tail of the tape here, 16-4 to 15-4, 30 years old for Yan, 32 for Dvalishvili, 5'7" to 5'6", 67 to 68. Let's start with the former bantamweight champion, Petr Yan. So I mentioned it there, 16-4. He's got 7 knockouts, 1 submission, and 8 decisions. He's the number 2 ranked UFC bantamweight. He is 29 years old, but at the time of recording this, he's going to be turning 30 on February 11th. Today's January 27th, time of recording this. Yan, like I mentioned there, 5'7" with the 67-inch reach. So he's 1 year younger and has a 1-inch height advantage over Merab Dvalishvili. Petr Yan, along with being the former UFC bantamweight champion, he was also the former ACB bantamweight champion. He trains at a Tiger Muay Thai and sometimes trains at American Top Team, but I think Tiger Muay Thai is where he's at now. He's got a Master of Sport in boxing and a Master of Sport in MMA, and he is a BJJ blue belt. I'm assuming that's correct. That's what Wikipedia had. I've been wrong about that before. I know Wikipedia sometimes not having that completely accurate. So along with being the former UFC bantamweight champion, he's also the former interim bantamweight champion, Petr Yan is. He's got fight of the night 3 times against Jin Soo Sun, Corey Sandhagen, and Sean O'Malley. He's got performance of the night 1 time against Uriah Faber. He's tied for the second longest win streak in UFC bantamweight history at 7, and he's also tied with Marlon Chito Vera for the most knockdowns in UFC bantamweight division history at 10. Petr Yan made his amateur debut way back in September of 2014. I got that wrong in my notes. He made his MMA debut in December of 2014. Interestingly enough, Merab Dvalishvili actually made his debut 11 months earlier than Petr Yan. They both made their debut the same year, but it was just a little bit earlier, which is interesting. Made his UFC debut in June of 2018, as you can see there. June of 2018. And Merab had already had 2 UFC fights. So again, kind of similar paths of how they've gone in the UFC. Some notable wins for Yan include John Dodson, who, former title challenger there. Jimmy Rivera was 22-3 at the time. That was a good win. Uriah Faber, the former title challenger there. Jose Aldo, finishing him in the 5th round of that fight. Very interesting there. And then Corey Sandhagen. That was a great win there at UFC 267. Short notice for both guys. Well, for Sandhagen anyways. And he got it done, which is a very good win for him. The 2 losses he has, Aljamain Sterling, the first one of it controversial with the illegal knee and everything like that. Yan, for most people felt like Yan was winning that fight, or he was on his way to either winning a decision or a late stoppage on Sterling in that one. So there was an illegal knee loss. Probably should have just been a no contest. And then he lost to Sterling again at UFC 273 last April. And then he lost to Sean O'Malley in a fight that a lot of people think that he won. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. He's only had 1 layoff that was of significance. That was from Jose Aldo to Aljamain Sterling, and there was a 238-day layoff. I believe there's some visa issues. Not sure exactly what happened there. And I think Sterling actually, he said personal reasons, so I'm wondering if it was a visa thing. But either way, that's the only layoff he's had, and he's never really had any major injuries either. So Yan, pretty active since making his UFC debut back in June of 2018. I mentioned the close fights. You see the split decision loss to Aljamain Sterling. Went back and looked at that one. April 2022, 11 media members scoring the fight for Sterling, 4 scoring it a draw, found that interesting, and 2 scoring it for Yan. So a majority still feeling like Sterling won, but there's 4 people who thought that it should have been a draw as well. And then Sean O'Malley. Oh boy, UFC 280. I remember watching that and thinking, wow, Petr Yan is going to win a decision. That's kind of what I thought was going to happen. And to my surprise, the judges gave it to Sean O'Malley. And if you look at the media scorecards, and again, that's not the be-all end-all, it's just something I mentioned on here. If you look at the media scorecards, 25 media members scored the fight for Petr Yan, just 1 scoring it for Sean O'Malley. It was someone from MMA Junkie. Not going to mention their name. They're good people, but I think Yan did enough to win that fight personally. So yeah, there we go. That's everything you need to know about the former bantamweight champion, Petr Yan. Let's get into maybe the nicest guy in the UFC, Merab Dvalishvili, right up there with Wonder Boy and those other guys. There you go. Merab Dvalishvili, 15-4 record. He's got 3 knockouts, 1 submission, and 11 decisions. He's the number 3 ranked bantamweight. He is 32 years old. He's 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage in this fight. He trains at 2 different camps. He trains at Serra-Longo, also trains a bit at Syndicate MMA with John Wood. He was a silver medalist in 2019 in the Combo Sambo World Championships, and he's got a black belt in judo. So Merab, a lot of nice credentials coming into this one. Merab Dvalishvili's got performance of the night 1 time against Marlon Moraes. He's got fight of the night 1 time against Ricky Simon. He's got the most unanimous decision wins in UFC bantamweight division history at 6, and he's tied for the longest win streak in UFC bantamweight history at 7. So this guy's been on quite the roll. Merab, like I mentioned there, or didn't mention it, actually, I'm telling you now, he made his amateur debut in May of 2013, made his MMA debut in January of 2014. So he made his debut in January, and Petr Yan making his a little bit later. And then made his UFC debut in December of 2017, which was a loss to Frankie Saenz. He's got an 8-2 UFC record. He's got 1 stoppage win. Some notable wins that I will include. I'll include one that's actually outside the UFC. I don't do this too often, but he's the only fighter to finish Rafael Stotts, who's the Bellator champ right now. He finished him in 15 seconds. That was a very good win. You can probably find that one on YouTube. Very crazy result in that one. And people don't know, that was a fight that ended up getting him in the UFC, but I think the plan was that Stotts was going to win that and he was going to go to the UFC. So funny how life works out like that. Him getting the big win over Rafael Stotts. Brad Katona was a good win at the time. I know people might not agree with me here. Brad Katona, Ultimate Fighter winner. He was 8-0. Actually, was he? Hold on. Was Brad Katona? It might not have been. I can't remember if Katona won tough or he was a runner-up. Oh no, he did. He did win the Ultimate Fighter. What am I talking about? Either way, Katona was undefeated. That was a good win there. So Brad Katona, good win. John Dodson also has a win over John Dodson as well. That was a good win as well. Marlon Moraes, former champion or title challenger. Can't remember Marlon Moraes. But either way, good win there. And then Jose Aldo's last fight, best win of his career, completely neutralized Aldo and was able to get a decision there. That was a big fight for him and just showed that he can do a lot. And he's only got 1 loss here. You see the losses in grappling, but we're talking MMA here. Sorry, he's got 2 losses. So he's got the loss to Frankie Saenz. We'll talk about that decision. But the Ricky Simon fight was weird. If you go back and watch that fight, it appeared that Merab was on his way to winning a decision, and then Ricky gets him in this choke, and then there was like this confusion of, was Merab out, was he not? The referee said he was out, so it was a submission win for Simon, but some people feel like Merab did enough to hold on. Merab was on his way to winning that had he not been choked out. So kind of a weird fight. Again, go watch it for yourself. Kind of a weird fight. I would love to see the rematch at some point because both fighters have improved a lot since then, and that fight was way back in 2018. Merab hasn't had any major injuries. He did have 1 layoff. That was going from Marlon Moraes to Jose Aldo. There was a 329-day layoff, but overall, Merab, pretty active fighter here. I mentioned close fights. Merab, that fight with Frankie Saenz, went back and looked that one up. That was UFC Fight Night 123, taking place in December of 2017. 4 media members scoring the fight for Frankie Saenz, 10 media members scoring it for Merab. So again, Merab probably should be, what's his overall record here? He should probably be 16-3, right? As opposed to 4 losses. So there we go. We do not have odds in this fight, but if you look on Tapology, you see how people are picking, and overwhelming amount are picking Petr Yan at 76%. This is a really tough one. I think this is one that could go either way. I think Yan, obviously, the advantage in striking. One thing we got to mention is Merab was nearly finished in that Marlon Moraes fight, but he's got a chin on him, so he's really tough to take out. Yan not known as much of a power puncher. Like, he doesn't have the type of power as like a Marlon Moraes or some of these other guys in the weight class, like a Cody Garbrandt, for example. But he's a good technical striker. Like, he can win via TKO, but he's not a guy that's going to win in the first round via knockout type thing. And he's fighting a guy who's got an iron chin. So you got Merab's iron chin. The pacing, Yan's a bit of a slow starter. We know this, right? We saw that in the Aldo fight, kind of picked it up later in that one. Merab is they call him the machine for a reason. This guy's got an incredible pace, and he's got an incredible ability to neutralize his opponents. We saw that in the Aldo fight, and Dana White was not happy. I think this is a way of kind of putting 2 guys that maybe Dana isn't the most excited about together to figure out the next contender. There's a reason that Yan and Merab are not fighting, Chito Vera or Corey Sandhagen or any of these. Well, Sandhagen fought Yan already, but you know what I'm saying? Like, they kind of did this on purpose, this matchup, from my perspective anyways, in terms of the styles. As far as the pick, though, with it being 5 rounds, that does favor Yan a bit just because of the fact that he's had the 5-round experience, but fighting the machine, man. The machine. Oh, and then a little bit of backstory here too, which is kind of interesting. Obviously, Merab, a teammate of Aljamain Sterling, who's, they've had their whole rivalry on in Sterling, and so now his teammate gets to take him out, which is interesting. Anyways, who do I think is going to win? I think Merab Dvalishvili is going to win. The fight he had with Aldo, and I realize you could do some MMA math and say, well, Petr Yan finished Jose Aldo. Well, Merab didn't finish him, but it was only a 3-round fight, right? Whereas if it was 5 rounds, maybe he does finish him. But I just think the pace that Merab is going to put on is going to be too much for Yan, who, like I said, is a bit of a slow starter. Now, Yan's going to have the advantage in the striking. Merab's got to be careful here. He could get pieced up. Maybe Yan goes out there and wins a decision as well, just with the striking. That could happen too. The thing that we're really going to find out is the takedown defense. We got to see that in this fight if Yan can stuff the takedown or if he can get away from Merab's strength. But Merab is just such a strong guy. He's very good at, like I said, neutralizing the weapons of his opponents. So I think regardless, I don't think we're going to see a finish here. I think this will go the full 5 rounds. I think both guys are good enough to go that long, and I also think that again, like, I don't see either guy having an edge in terms of finishing power by any means, but I just have a feeling that while, part of me is like, Jan's going to win with the striking, he's going to win a decision that way. The other part of me says he's not even going to get all the strikes off because Merab's just going to hold him against the fence, control him, do what he does best, and just make it his fight. And that's what I think is going to happen. So my official pick for this fight is going to be Merab Dvalishvili by decision. I'm pretty sure he's going to be an underdog, so I think there's some value there as well. But I'm telling you guys, I think this does go the full 5 rounds. I don't think we'll see a finish here, unless this is the fight where maybe Merab's chin goes out, but he's not fighting a guy who has as much of a knockout threat as, say, Marlon Moraes does. So my pick's going to be Merab Dvalishvili. A little bit shorter of a breakdown here today, but that's what I'm going with. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Who are you picking in this fight? Are you going Petr Yan, the former champ, or are you going Merab Dvalishvili, the machine? Let me know. Also, let me know if there's any other fights you want me to preview. I'm doing more of these preview shows this year. It doesn't have to be a main event. Even just like an interesting fight you think would be worth previewing. Definitely open to doing that on Early Look here. Let me know in the comments if there's anything, any other fights you want me to preview. And let me know what you think of this fight. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I would love to hear your arguments. Obviously, want to have a discussion here. If there's any insults or any of that, I got no time for that. So let's just stick with this fight discussion and have fun with this. Again, one more time, make sure you follow me on Twitter and on Instagram and TikTok at Lynch on Sports. Make sure you subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Hit that like button. It's so easy to do. You just go click. It's all good. And it helps me out with the algorithm and all that other good stuff. And make sure you hit that notification bell because guess what? I'm putting content on this channel almost every single day. All right, everyone. I'm James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching. And I'll see you next time in another edition of Early Look.